This game against Petrov Golubka, I had no idea what to expect. So I decided to play my casual continuation, what I normally play, d4, knight f6, c4, e6. He played the Nimzo. I was very happy to see that. e3, one of the major continuations. So there's many lines again. I mean, there's queen c2, there's knight f3, there's f3. I mean, this is essentially one of the possible continuations. So e3, short castle, and knight e2. And about knight e2, you know, I've had some very good memories about this line, and I played some very fine games. I'm not sure if my opponent was ready for this, because like I already said, the specifics of the tournament, of the league, is that you get the pairings 15 minutes before the start of the round, so you don't really know against who you're going to be playing. So very quickly, of course, I was checking what my opponents might play, what Tiger Hila Persson plays, what Yuri Solotovnichenko plays, and of course what Petro Golubka plays, but I didn't know who is going to be. Yeah, this I played rook e8. And now, why white plays knight e2, this is quite important. He wants to play a3 and secure the two bishop advantage. So let's say you play something like d5, a3. This is not great, because you give up white two bishop advantage, and the position will open, and you're missing the darks with bishop. So think about some future moments when you're going to play b6, bishop b7, c5. White is going to position the bishop on b2, and he has a very powerful darks with bishop. So if I retreat, one of the major themes here is c takes, knight f4, and white just plays normal chess. I mean, it's not very dangerous, but there's stuff like f3, g4, h4, g5, queen c2, maybe a long castle. So the game can get very exciting very, very fast. So I've been playing for some time rook e8, and I really love this idea. Now, the point is, if white now plays knight f4, I don't have to play d5, I play d6. d6 and e5. Let's say bishop e2, c6, e5. The question is, what is this knight doing on f4? Nothing really, right? So black has a normal development. You know, I'm not really sure about this move c6, but the idea to take away the d5 square before pushing e5, it does make sense. Of course, white has some other combinations as well. He can play knight g3, but then I play d5. Knight g3, d5, c takes, and you don't have the knight on f4, which allows white to start his kingside attack. Would I also play some kind of a hedgehog setup? Is there a hedgehog? Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't enter the hedgehog position just because I can enter it. I mean, I enter a position which promises dynamic chances. Also, there's a move d5, stopping black's d5. And there's a very interesting move a5. I have played this before. Hello, Oinukas, how are we doing? a5, let's say knight g3, knight a6, bishop here, knight c5, take it. This is very dynamic game, and I've played some very good games in this line, so it feels some sort of Benoni structure with not the best setup for white. So all of this, I think I already discussed in one of the boot camps. Yeah, I think I did it. He played e4. I was like, okay, listen, this I last analyzed something like 5-6 years ago. I still know that d5 is the move. e5, knight e7, and now this is this is where the fun starts. So I'm thinking, wait, probably he cannot take the pawn, right? So the c takes, knight e5. This is bad. I mean, it should be bad. I just play something like c5. His knight on e2 is not great. He's in the center, so something like this, it just looks terrible. I mean, despite the fact that I'm down a pawn for the moment, white is desperately behind the development. I have very active pieces, and does this pawn on c5 really mean a lot? No. I don't think so. And neither did he. So the main continuation after knight e7 is that white is not gonna accept the pawn on e5. So he plays c takes, and f4. And after c5 here, knight c6, I could not remember a thing. So there is a lot of dynamic opportunities. For example, if white I guess still cannot take on d5. So if white plays d takes, knight c5, queen d5, there could be problems with knight e3. So white cannot do that. And after knight e5, I think there was something very wrong with this. I think it was there's even a piece sacrifice. Something like this. So the game could get very sharp very quick. I'm not sure, maybe not here, but that's the idea. Maybe f6, try to break the center. So there's a lot of interesting lines, and I was expecting this might happen. I was very happy. Because when I was given the second game in a row with black, I was not very excited because I was hoping that the final game of the Swedish league I will be given with white. So with black against the Grandmaster, it's difficult to play for the win. And the moment my opponent played the Nimzo, I was very excited because this means this is going to be a fight. He's not going to try to play for the draw. And yeah, he played h4. And next to me on the first board is sitting Jon Ludvig Kammer. He's like, look at, really? h4? He hadn't seen this move ever. I had never seen this move in my life. I mean, I had never studied this line in particular. I'm like, what on earth is this? So obviously he wants to play something like bishop g5. He wants to play maybe something like rook h3, but this is too much, no? So I wasn't very concerned about this variation, but you gotta admit it's interesting. So naturally I cannot take on c4. If I take on c4, bishop g5, white plays queen c2. And his idea is to castle long. So this can get very ugly very fast. So white has a very interesting attack at the king's side. That is definitely an interesting idea. Do I know the Nimzo lines well? Yeah, I guess I know them pretty well. So since one of the major themes in the line of c takes, f4 is to play c5 and knight c6, well, I figured that also here it should be the same, right? So I play c5, and I'm ready to sacrifice the pawn if I have to. He plays bishop g5, and I'm thinking, okay, listen, I have three choices. Choice number one, I can play queen b6, first option which jumps to my mind. Try to pressure the center. Choice number two, I can play queen f5. Choice number three, I can play queen c7. Choice number four, I can play bishop e7. Choice number five, I can play f6. And I have a feeling all of them are good. So I'm trying to listen to my gut instinct. What my gut instinct is saying, what should be the move? Well, unfortunately the gut instinct says f6 is the move. But that is gonna lead to some crazy fireworks on the board. Actually, you know, queen a5, I saw there's this amazing move b4. b4, c takes, queen b4, and I'm not sure, something like rook a4, c takes, and even if white doesn't win the pawn on d5, he's incredibly active here. Now, queen a5 is a big mistake. Queen a5 is a big mistake because of this amazing move b4. I was thinking about queen b6, but I wasn't sure if my queen on b6 is positioned exactly where I want. So what, for example, queen d4, this leads to some dynamics. After bishop c5, the pawn on f2 now is under attack, and queen b2, so there's a lot of excitement. But I figured that he's gonna probably take with a knight. And after something like e takes, give up the pawn on e5. So even if I win the pawn, white is pretty active. So something along the lines, I did not specifically see this exact line, but I thought something like this could happen. So that's why I excluded queen b6 as my potential continuation. I mean, bishop e7 looks so chicken move that I didn't even consider this. So I play over there. Let's play f6. So my opponent is coming out. He's saying to me, hey, come out and play. Do you want to play? I really, really do. I really, really do. I want to play. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's have some fun. And I'm thinking, this is content. So after f6, again, he has many choices. I guess he has to take first. He takes. Knight f6 is not how you play this line. So g takes on f6. And I had many beautiful lines here calculated. He could play the obvious choice, bishop e3. e5. How do you stop d4? If he takes it, I take it. If he plays something like bishop f4, I play knight e5. Where's this king gonna go? Long castle is never gonna happen. So there's definitely room for white to make a mistake. So bishop e3, e5 is a major problem. I can always guide my king on h8. I was thinking also bishop d2, and when I was calculating this line with f6, I'm looking, wait, he can sacrifice a piece. f6, he takes, g takes, he can play queen c2. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go, here we go. I'm thinking, if I'm gonna take it, this is a main threat. Queen e7 looks weird, probably rook e7. Long castle, rook g7, and f4. I'm looking, wait a second, what is happening here? I have no clue. And I'm having an extra piece for a pawn, but knight g3, knight g3, knight h5, bishop d3, these are very easy moves. Do I want to do this? Nah. Yeah, queen c2. And I'm thinking, if he's gonna play queen c2, I'm thinking already here, right? I'm thinking, if he's gonna do queen c2, probably I'm gonna play bishop g7, so that I'm threatening to take the piece and play knight f8. And protect the knight, the h7 and g6 squares. And now whatever he does next, let's say bishop e3, I play the same, e5. So that was my thought process. He played bishop d2. I'll tell you honestly, I was disappointed. I was expecting queen c2, because I felt if you play something like h4, bishop g5, queen c2 is the follow-up, because you do want to play, right? You want to have some fun here. Let's do this. Bishop d2 felt like it's a very modest retreat, not in the spirit of the position. So I took a pawn. D takes on c4, and my idea is very simple. Play knight c6, knight e5, something on d3, fight for the center. King always goes to h8. I felt very, very positive. And here he made a mistake. He played bishop e3, which cannot be good because he just played bishop d2, bishop e3. And what he could have done is d takes, and you're gonna love these lines. Let me just show you some of the incredible, amazing lines of the engines. So, knight c5. This is probably the human move, knight f4. So after knight f4, knight b3, white has this check on g4, which is maybe quite obvious, rook d1. Well, what is not very obvious? What happens after e5? Because white is about to drop a piece. White is about to drop a piece, right? So you play knight g6, chill. So knight g6 check. I'm not sure where do you where do you play, because king g7 is bishop g6, bishop h6. Our own queen is under attack, so this we have to see. And king g8, I guess there's gonna be some kind of there's bishop c4. Yeah, that is incredibly bad. So everything is just falling apart. So we really have to take it. We really have to take on g6. After knight g6, we take it. Queen g6, knight e4, and apparently this is a draw. Because after bishop c4, bishop e6, queen h5, king g8, queen g6, I cannot play bishop g7 because of bishop h6, queen d7, and a knight e5, very obvious move. How do you like that? I mean, okay, maybe bishop g7 is a bit simpler because bishop g7, queen g7 is queen e8. This is not how people play. Okay, you think this is not a computer's line? Check out the other continuation. So after d takes on c5, knight c5, check out knight g3. I play here. I try to win the rook or the bishop. White sacrifices the rook. I take here. Castle. I mean, white is down the rook. I continue development. I just play some positional chess. Knight e4. I hide the king. White doesn't take the knight on a1. He plays knight h5. I go here. White finally takes it. I go here. The only move. Rook d1. Only move b5. Now white sacrifices another piece. For some reason I cannot take it. Don't ask me why. Rook g8. Now there is a very obvious move, knight g5. And f takes is a mistake. Because after bishop c3, e5, b4, white wins. Come on, who plays like that? I mean, come on, who plays like that? Because white is down a full rook, right? And there's gonna be some sacrifices, and there's a lot of only moves. And this is nuts. I mean, nobody plays like that. Maybe Mikhail Tal will play like that. So this entire strategy actually of bishop g5, h4, bishop d2 is a brilliant idea. But you know, Ancient says that d takes on c5 maybe is actually not the best. I should have played knight b6. I mean, come on. I'm not a robot, right? So he made a mistake. Yeah. He played bishop e3. He didn't find all of these brilliances. I mean, big surprise, right? So I play knight c6. And apparently he had the final chance to try to fix the position with d takes. And after bishop c5, he's suffering, but he's not losing. At least, not immediately. But he continued to press for more. And after knight e5, he's busted. That's it. It's very quick. It's very simple, because after d takes is knight d3 check. Knight b2. That's a discovered check. He loses the queen. So he cannot do that. He played knight f4. I play knight e4, and that's it. I have an extra pawn. I have the better pieces. So there is one very beautiful line. Bishop d4 loses in a stunning fashion. C takes, queen d4. And white is about to castle long. Seems great. There's no checks. I was even looking at lines like this. Check here and e5. You can believe me. I was looking at this. Engine doesn't like it, but I like it. But there's something better. Knight c6. Very beautiful move. So white cannot take it. The queen is under attack. And any move is just boom. That's a check. Boom. And d3. White loses a piece. Very, very, very beautiful. Very beautiful line. So white cannot really take on d4, and according to the engine, the best he should have done is d6. This is not how people play, really. And after d takes, bishop e6. Since I'm about to play bishop f7, I have an amazing knight concentration in the center. He took on e6. He played here. And I'm already looking for a way to win the game. So rook d6 is a very natural choice, because I want to attack the queen. I want to win the queen. But to be honest, I was thinking maybe this is not even necessary, because I could play queen e8, just play for domination, because I have a wonderful concentration of the pieces in the center. Do I need a queen? I decided rook d6 looks pretty good. And if he plays something like queen a4, going after the pawn on c4 with bishop c4, the simplest is take on e2. King e2, my thought process was queen c8, queen b4, this should be winning. Although the agent says rook b6, queen d3 is faster. I didn't see that, to be honest. And if he plays knight e2, I take another pawn. And the best part is, I get to simplify the position. 2 extra pawns, a massive pawn to the queen side, so this position is easily winning. But the fun is about to yet start. So queen a4 naturally is losing, and he decided, okay, listen, I'm gonna sacrifice the queen. Why not? But not out of good life. And unfortunately, I can win the exchange here because after knight b3, there's very annoying check bishop c4. And knight c4, queen b3, that actually hurts. And I not only I didn't win any material, I'm about to lose some. So knight b3 would be a very careless continuation. But my thought process here is, do I really need a queen? Because I love my knights here. They're beautiful knights in the center. And I was thinking, can I play something dominating like f5? Maybe I should have done it. Not sure. f5, keep the knights in the center because bishop d4, c takes on d4. This is a total domination. There's queen h4, rook h6 ideas. But for some reason I decided that, I mean, queen is a queen. So I take it. If he takes with the rook, there's going to be knight f3, I simplify the position. So, of course, he takes with the bishop. And after a couple of moves, we get to the following position. So, maybe white was not very accurate, but I just want you to show the idea. So he plays a4, trying to stop me from fixing a better pawn structure at the queen side, because now a6 will be met by a5, b5 will be responded with a takes on b6 and passant, capture. So I play bishop h6, activate my pieces, he plays here. And now is the now is the critical moment. I'm thinking, wait a second, you're done. You should be done. And there's a million ways I can win this. Now I'm thinking the simplest way probably is I take on f4. I take on f4, I play queen e4. If he plays bishop e3, I play knight g4. This is what we call simplification. We simplify the position from a mess, moderate mess, into a position which is winning. But I'm not sure. I mean, maybe he plays something like bishop e5. Bishop e5, you know, f takes, bishop f3. Is this winning? You know, I want my pawn on b7 alive. Is this winning at all? Would Magnus find that insane combination I showed? I think so. If somebody would find it, that would be Magnus. Or maybe Dubov. It would take an incredible imagination. Can I go queen e4 first? Yes, I can go. I was considering this. Queen e4. And he plays knight h5. And I wasn't sure how I'm going to continue. This is what he was saying to me, that I should have played knight e3. I didn't like it because there's bishop f3. And where do I position my queen? Maybe queen b6, bishop g3, so win the pawn on b2. But these are very strong bishops, you know? And, I mean, probably it's winning. Maybe I can exclude it with something like f5, f4. But is this ideal? No. I'm looking for more. And I'm thinking, wait, can I sacrifice the exchange here? And I'm seriously thinking about this. Can I play rook d4? And now the idea is, if he's gonna take it, I have a dominating center. This knight is under attack. Knight h5, d3. And I'm looking at this position, I'm thinking, what if I misplay this? Of course, it is easily winning, but what if? What if I somehow misplay this, you know, and maybe this is not the most clean victory because I give up the exchange for nothing and I have so much extra material. I don't want to do this. In a rapid game, I will play rook d4 in a heartbeat. Because rook d4, He plays something like knight h5, I simplify the position, and now that's it. Take it, king h8, that's it, he's just losing. So this maybe, it looks slightly mess, but this is actually a simplification. He has no attack. I want to play moves like knight e3, c3, c2, promoted the queens. This would be the easiest, cleanest win. Okay, I mean, I felt okay. Rook d4 is too much. What's the simplifying move? Bishop f4. And now I convince myself that queen e4 is too simple. I play rook d4. I don't even remember what I was gonna play after bishop g3. Maybe some centralizing move like queen b6. To be honest, I don't remember already. He took on e5. And he played rook c1. I was like, wait a second, you're actually helping me to simplify the position? Okay, take on h4. I thought that if he's gonna take with the bishop, there's this idea. I'm gonna trade the rooks and transpose the endgame into position, queen against the rook and bishop, again, and queen and pawn against rook and the bishop. So that's my thought process. I want to simplify. And he suddenly takes with the rook. I'm like, wait, why are you helping me here? And I take on c4 immediately. If I had thought here for a couple of minutes, I would have found e4, which is immediately lights out. Almost immediately lights out, because there's queen h6. Something like this. Now there's this threat. So after a couple of moves, the position inevitably opens. And I get exactly what I wanted. Anyway, fast forwarding, what happened in the game is I kindly accept the simplification. And after a couple of moves, it starts to dawn upon me. This is not simple. Because if I'm going to play something like a6, b5, he's going to take it and play bishop f1. My pawns might not go anywhere, because he has the rook and the bishop holding it. The king side looks pretty secure. At this moment, I started to realize that what's required of me will be a very precise technique. I thought this is a piece of cake, and that's why I went for this entire setup. That's why I went for this bishop f4, rook d4. This is what we call simplification. I did a boot camp about converting material advantage. I've told many topics and many seminars about the importance of simplifying, but not playing cheap at the same time. I just play cheap. So what happened here, we got to this position, and it was not very obvious that the strongest move was e4, because I was afraid that he might position the bishop here on f1 and g2. Are there GMs with special reputations for endgame technique? Yeah, definitely. There's some GMs who are stronger with technical positions than others. Absolutely. Just like there are grandmasters who are stronger in sharp positions as well. Everybody has here his own strengths. And about this position, what I didn't understand is that I can trade the pawn on e4 for this idea. And I get to play c4. So my idea is to give up the pawn on e4 to create an outside pass pawn. This is a bit beyond me. I was not ready to give up the pawn on e4. So I played h5. And after a couple of moves, we are getting this position. So what could have happened here? King g3 is h4. I win the pawn on f2, and I have a protected pass pawn. If he plays f3, I had an idea like this: King g5. Let's say he tries to go after the queenside pawns. There's got to be something, right? King f4, rook b7, and something along the lines. I'm not saying this is right, but king e3. King e3, king f2, queen g1. This looks like a victory to me, because there's a checkmate threat. Pawn on g2 might be lost, and the pawns on e5, c5, f3 are actually covering the black king from any checks. So the pawn on a7 doesn't mean a thing because I think this already is a mate. Something like this, 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 and this. That's why you need to solve puzzles and recognize certain types of positions. So I knew this idea from some puzzles. So he played rook f3, here, here, king g6, smart move just to keep the king in check of the rook. So if he takes it, I felt that this should be winning. And the critical moment arose here. He played g3, and now this is the moment when I had an idea. And this is where we're gonna have the content. So I play queen d2, threatening with d3. He plays here. I play queen c1. Here, and oopsie daisy here. Whoa, now what happens here? So queen h1 is a big mate in one threat. Alright, and now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a question to you. Can you take on c4 and play king f7? So this is where the second time control finished. And this was the reason. This was the reason why I entered this position. So my idea was, if this is not gonna work, I'm gonna play e3 and still continue in the same manner as intended. But I can end the game right now. Can I do this? So I'm calculating. Queen c4, b takes, king f7. I'm calculating. If he plays something like, let's say, king f1, this is gonna be dangerous, right? This is not dangerous. I have an extra pawn. There's gonna be some Zugzwang ideas like a5, b6, the extra tempo means something. It should be good, by the way, but the only thing I want to mention, a6 is always a5. So that is not good. And even b6, a6, b5, this is gonna cost you a pawn, so it's not really so simple. Alright. So I'm calculating, takes, king f7. What about g4? So g4, h takes, king g3, king e6. If he takes it, I have the king on e5, that should be win. He might play king f4 though. And now this is where things get very, very tricky. No f, you cannot guess. You have to calculate. That's what it matters. I mean, you have to calculate, you cannot guess. So a6, a5 is going to be king d6, and now b6 will be a threat to create an outside pass pawn. Only move, black wins. This is not obvious stuff because this is balancing with the draw. Alright, let's check some other moves. So I'm calculating what happens if he plays king h3. Goes after the pawn on h5. What do? I cannot play king g6 because I lose. Because let's say king h6, g4, that's it. So we cannot do that. I'm thinking, can I play a5? If he plays king h4, I play b5. A takes, I play king e6, and now this pawn promotes and the king is in the square. So he might play c takes, I play king e6, the king is in the square, so he takes it, I play c4, and he cannot stop the pawn. So that's my thought process. But then I'm thinking, wait a second, after a5 he can play g4. What do I do now? Because if I play h takes, king g4, b5, a takes, king e6, black wins, c takes, king e6, king f4, here, I guess it's even b6, and white wins. You know, and I'm calculating and something like 10 minutes pass, and I decided not to do it. Because I have a very simple excuse not to do it. I have the other move e3, which is simpler. But check this out. This is winning for black. Take it. King f7. Only winning move. king e6. Exactly this order. Why this is so important? We force white to play king h4, and only then we make the only winning move, a5. So we already know the idea. I already showed you the idea. What I didn't understand is the order of the moves. So white could not play g4 because after king e6, g4 takes, we immediately go to king e5. So after king h4, now we play a5, and then we push b5. Thank you, Pokoinai Shaki, for the raid of 9. How are we doing? And after b5, c takes, c4, b6, king d6. This pawn is slow, this pawn is fast. That's it. The king domination. Yeah, so maybe it's not very difficult, actually. You know? It's not very difficult. But this was a very tough moment. Yeah, very, very tough moment. So this would make a perfect puzzle. King e6 and a5. I had the idea. I even calculated it, but I calculated it in the wrong direction. So I calculated a5, king e6. What I didn't ask myself is king e6 and a5. So there's nothing white can do about it, because now a5 is such a powerful idea. Once again, a6 would be a5. And suddenly white wins. You couldn't even push this b5 idea, right? And yeah, this I discovered, of course, in the post-mortem analysis, that this king e6 is most accurate moves, and then I play a5, 2 incredible moves in a row. So I didn't do this. I didn't do this. But you know, this made me think that I'm definitely gonna create a special bootcamp edition, and I'm gonna call it Simple Pawn Endgames. I already have a couple of examples like that. They look simple. They're not simple at all, right? So also one of the reasons why I decided not to do this, the cost of the mistake is too high. Even if this is winning, right? I was, you know, I wasn't sure because I didn't see the correct ordered moves, but even if this is winning, the cost of the mistake is very high. I make one mistake, like play a5 instead of king e6, that's it, I'm done. Instead of winning, I'm losing. So why do I need to do this, right? So I play e3, I keep things under control. And after f takes, queen e3, a white cannot take on b7, because queen e4 will win the rook. So what happened here is that after rook f3, queen e5, black's idea is to push a6, b5, create the passed pawn, but things are still not simple. There is a definite chance that white might try to build up. This is what we call a fortress. So rook f4, a6, now a5 is bad, yeah, queen e1, this pawn is lost. Yeah, if you have to calculate that, you cannot guess, because part of being professional, an experienced player, is you always keep things in control. You never gamble, you never guess. I mean, you don't toss a coin. I hope it's gonna fall how do you want, because it's 50-50 chance really if you do it. So queen b2 check, king e3, and now very beautiful moment. Do we play b5 or not? Because this was our idea, right? b5, takes, bishop b5, queen b3. Hooray! We have an outside passed pawn. And now I ask a very simple question. How do you progress? Because white is gonna play just do nothing. I cannot do this. This is a fortress. I think this is a fortress. I don't think black can make any progress here. This pawn is not going anywhere. King is not going anywhere. The pawn is not going anywhere. So white is gonna play something like bishop e2, king f2, and sit. So I have to expect that. And that's why there's the move king g5, remove the king from any checks. And also, quite unexpectedly, it sets white at Zugzwang. Because after rook e4, he is going to have a problem to defend the pawn on g3. How do you play? Bishop goes away from controlling b5 square. Black is going to play b5. So how do you play? He played king f3, and now there is b5. Because after a takes, now down there is no bishop b5 because there's no bishop d3. Major difference. So white simply is unable to do nothing. He has to do something. So that's why he played king f3, b5, takes, bishop f7. Now the next question is, can we play c4? B takes and b4, create an outside pass pawn. I'll tell you honestly, I wasn't sure about this. For example, c5, b3, bishop b3, king b2, here. Is this a win? Because I know some very similar positions without the pawn on h5. Is this a win? This might be a fortress. It is winning, but only because of the following idea. Queen e3. The only move is here, and the only winning idea is h4. Only idea. Rook h4, check. You still need to be very, very precise. By the way, I'm not sure what happens here. Here, take. You could take the rook, that's stalemate. Check, and here. Okay, so it is winning. Yeah, it is winning. So there's no way to sacrifice the rook so that there's a stalemate on the board. So if you go king h3, the rule is that if the queen gets behind a pawn, this is technically winning position. This is a famous position. I have studied this. But in the game I wasn't 100% sure. Yeah, if the king gets behind the pawn, this is always winning. So I wasn't sure about this, so I didn't want to test this. And actually white can get the same position after c4, bishop c4. And there's an extra pawn on c4. So maybe there's, you know, some chance that white is gonna build a fortress. So I decided not to test this. So I'm thinking I need to apply some extra pressure on the pawn, on the bishop on f7, because it's guarding the pawn on b3. So that's why there's this check. And I go after the bishop. King g7, queen e5, queen e7 is the idea. And there's nothing I could do about it. So king h3, queen a1, threading with the mate. Here, 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 and here. So rook f2 now is met by transition to the pawn endgame, and now this time I'm sure it's winning because the pawn structure is fixed. If he plays king h3, which is happening in the game, after queen e5, white has another Zugzwang. There's no move. So the bishop cannot move. The pawn is lost. I mean, the bishop is lost, actually. Rook f4 is queen f4. I enter the pawn endgame. Rook f2 is exactly what happened in the game. And king g2 is queen e2. So again, we transpose into pawn endgame. That's the simplest. Just create an outside pass pawn and easily win this. So he played rook f1 and queen e7. The bishop is overloaded because bishop d5, queen d7, that's a check. And after bishop h5, I just win the pawn on b3, and that's it. So after the b3 pawn is gone, there is no hope for the fortress. The game progressed a couple of moves and white resigned. So at any given moment, he could give a check on f7. Of course, I'm simply gonna take it. Just take it, and that's it. So b3, b2, b1, maybe even king g8 if I have to. So this is easily winning position. But I think the position was very, very tricky because once again, if we go to this position, this comes from the experience. You can easily misplay this. You can easily misplay this by pushing b5 because this is a move you normally want to make. You want to create an outside pass pawn, but you have to make sure this is not a fortress. And the same thing also happens here. So we set a Zugzwang. Now he gonna take on b5, and we make sure that the c4 idea, is this winning or not? So I was not 100% sure, so I decided to postpone the decision and instead go after the bishop on f7, which is simply lacking any squares. Yeah, so queen a1 is another precise move. Otherwise, after king g7, we also need to watch out for the opponent, that he might activate his pieces. So queen a1, push the king back, and only now play king g7. And now we go after the bishop on f7. So that's the technique. I hope you understand it. But still, I think this was a very nice game. A very nice calculation example. This queen c1. Once again, queen c1. Can you calculate queen c4, b8, king f7? I think that was a very hard pawn endgame. Now, after the game, of course, I understand it, and I know where I made a mistake. But I think I'm definitely gonna make a compilation and compile these easy pawn endgames, right? Because there's the saying, a very popular saying, that the pawn endgames, come on people, this is easy stuff. Count to 10. No, they're not easy. They're not easy. I can show you more endgames like that. They visually look easy, but if in one move white goes right side, and then after another move goes the left side, and then he goes back to the right side, and you have to understand it, why he does it, it's not easy, I tell you this. There's a very, very nice game, I'm gonna show you that. No, they're not fewer pieces either in game, absolutely not. I would just say like this, fewer pieces, the higher the price for the mistake. That is true. So you maybe have fewer pieces to worry about, but the cost of the mistake will be much higher. And that's also why in this game I decided not to sacrifice the queen, not to go into pawn endgame if I'm not sure, but some point later when I was already sure, I was already ready to give up the queen for the rook and the bishop, and because I know this pawn endgame is winning. All in all, I mean, very, very nice game, very sharp game. It's definitely not the cleanest victory. I have to give a lot of credit for my opponent for playing very imagination chess, this h4 bishop g5. I didn't treat it very seriously during the game, but in the post-mortem analysis in the hotel, I realized it's actually a very interesting idea. And it requires black to play very precise, very active. Yeah, nice game.